I welcome all members and officers to the meeting of Council today, which is due to government guidance advice to practice social distancing and will be held virtually. The meeting has been recorded and will be available via the Council's website to be viewed as soon as practicable following the meeting. Everyone participating in the meeting will be accessing the meeting from remote locations. And please could everybody ensure that mobile phones are switched off or to silent mode. I need to remind myself that I need to do that as well because I haven't done it. Okay. Members will receive an electronic copy of the agenda. And I'll ask officers to present a summary of the key points. For the record, the agenda can be viewed on the Council's website. Members and officers will be speaking at various points during the meeting, and those speaking may switch their cameras on at that point. I would ask that the exception of myself as Mayor, at all other times you keep your cameras and microphones switched off, as this will help to minimise the background noise and interference and ensure connection remains as stable as possible. Councillor Sturman, can you knock your camera off, please? If any members and officers wish to raise a point of question, you should use the hands up icon on the screen. I will come to you in order to receive requests. Please do not use your microphone until I invite you to do so. Please lower your hand once you're finished speaking. Please also only use the chat function to indicate if you have joined or are leaving the meeting. In the event the Council requires a vote on any item of business before it at the meeting, the Democratic Services Officer will call out the name of each member present in turn and request them to vote verbally either for, against or abstain. Then ask the officer to announce the result of the vote and the Council's decision on the item. Officers from Democratic Services and ICT will be supporting the meeting and will be monitoring the use of microphones throughout the meeting, and where necessary will mute those not being used. I would ask the officers to introduce themselves as and when I invite them to speak during the course of the meeting. They too should ensure microphones and cameras are switched off when not in use. So we'll now go through the agenda for today. Today's Council meeting of Wednesday 19th of January. First item on the agenda today, apologies for absence. There's a few have been received so far, and at the moment I have Councillor Richard Collins, Councillor Nicole Burnett, Councillor Elaine Venables, Councillor Julia Williams, Councillor Aldaf Hussain, Councillor Carolyn Webster, and Councillor James Radcliffe. My condolences to Councillor Collins because he's been attending his father's funeral, who recently passed away, so my condolences to Councillor Collins and his family on their situation. Any other apologies from members or officers? Hang on a minute. My screen is not showing who wants to speak now, even though I know there's a...
It's Councillor Ross Thomas.
Yeah, Councillor Ross Thomas. I don't know what's up with my machine today, but it's not showing me who. Councillor Ross Thomas.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Hopefully not an apology, but Councillor Chris Davis, the new member for Kyra, is having issues accessing the meeting. So can someone from IT or Democratic Services please contact him if that's possible? Thank you.
Great, thank you, Councillor Thomas. And if somebody could take that up.
Yeah, we'll do that now, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Any further apologies from anybody? No? Okay. Move then to item 2 on the agenda, which is declarations of interest of personal or prejudicial from members or officers in accordance with the Members' Code of Conduct adopted by the Council on the 1st of September 2008. And firstly, I need to declare a prejudicial interest in item 8, the Council Tax Reduction Scheme, as a family member in receipt. So I will be leaving the meeting at that point. And Councillor Amanda Williams.
Thanks very much. I need to seek advice if possible, because I don't know. I need to declare some sort of an interest on agenda item number 6, Coity Hire. I don't know if it's personal or prejudicial, so if Kelly could give me some advice, because I'm not sure about predisposed and predetermined, the difference between those either, because I'm named in the report because I was one of the people who supported a recommendation to change the number so it was fairer. I'm not on the Community Council, but I am named in that report, so I don't know if I need to declare a prejudicial interest in that item, please.
You
Kelly?
happy for me to come in, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, please, Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Williams, I'd advise that on the basis of what's set out in the report, you declare a prejudicial interest and don't take part in the proceedings.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Paul Davies.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'd also like to extend my commiserations to Councillor Collins today on his father's funeral. I'd also like to declare a prejudicial interest in item 8. I have also a family member in receipt of that benefit, and also a prejudicial interest in item 10 as the reappointment of the Standards Committee, because I'm a member of that Standards Committee, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Councillor Richard Young.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to register a prejudicial interest in item 6 also. The electoral arrangements in County Higher Community Council, as I'm a member of that council, and I will be leading the meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Young. Councillor David White.
I'd like to declare an prejudicial interest in item number 8. I'm a very close member of my family in receipt of the benefit.
Thank you, Councillor White. Councillor Brian Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Agenda item 8, please. I have a family member in receipt of benefits for the council reduction.
Okay. Can I just remind members as well to declare either personal or prejudicial and whether they believe in the meeting? Councillor Alex Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and on behalf of the Independent Alliance Group, I'd like to extend my condolences to Councillor Richard Collins on the death of his father, and I'd like to declare a prejudicial interest in item number 6 on the electoral arrangements in County Higher Council, because I mentioned in the report, and I believe in the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Mike Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to declare a prejudicial interest in item 10 as a member of the Standards Committee.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Clark. And the last one I got here is Councillor Malcolm James.
Yeah, item 8, Mr. Mayor, I declare a personal interest in the council tax reduction, and a member of my family is in receipt of it. And also, obviously, my sympathies to Richard Collins and the death of his father. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor James. I can see Councillor Chris Davis is joining the meeting as well now, I think. Councillor James, could you take your hand down as well, or do you want to speak again? Councillor Malcolm James? Oh, no, okay. Okay, I'm going to remind everybody, with those that declared prejudicial interest, it will not just be putting your camera off, it will be actually physically leaving the meeting and receive a notification to re-enter the meeting at the appropriate point. Okay, item 3 then, approval of the minutes. Receive approval of the minutes for the meeting for the Council held on the 15th of December 2021. Mover and a seconder.
Second.
Second.
Be moved. Yeah, seconded.
Second, Matt.
Yeah. All in favour?
Yeah.
Amendments. Okay with that? Thank you very much. Item 3. Moving on to item 4 now, announcements. I've got too many pieces of paper. Right, item 4, the first one, announcements from myself. And firstly, as you've just seen the screen, I would like to extend a warm welcome to Councillor Chris Davis as the new representative of the Cairo Ward in his first council meeting. I take it he is still in the meeting. I know it did appear on screen. So welcome, Councillor Davis. Since the busy schedule of Christmas, myself, the start of this year has been relatively quiet. And on that note, I'd like to wish everybody here today and throughout the County Borough of Bridgend a happy, safe and healthy New Year. The Mayor Citizenship Awards nominations are now closed, and there have been in excess of 30 nominations submitted that are now being assessed, with the format of the presentation to be agreed in due course, depending on the situation with any restrictions due to COVID. However, it is envisaged that this will take place in March 2022 this year. Next week, on Thursday 27th of January, will be Holocaust Memorial Day. One day is the theme for Holocaust Memorial Day 2022, in the hope that maybe one day in the future where genocide will no longer take place. People have been asked to light their own memorial candle at their home this year to remember those lost or permanently scarred by the effects of genocide. Due to there not being any formal gathering taking place, I will be lighting a candle on behalf of the County Borough in the Council's chamber, which will be recorded on video. The Mayor's charity fundraising front, there will be Wales 3 Peaks Challenge taking place on April the 2nd this year. In the early morning ascent of Pen y Fan, then moving on to Cadidrys, and finally in afternoon ascent of Snowdon. They're all being completed within 24 hours. If anybody's interested in taking part and helping to raise funds for Lads and Dads and Bridgend Carer Centre, please contact me by the end of this month so that final numbers can be confirmed. I'm eagerly awaiting volunteers. Finally, please note that if you're aware of anybody who may be due to celebrate their 100th birthday, or even 101 or 100 plus, or maybe celebrating a special wedding anniversary, then please get in touch via mayor@bridgend.gov.uk, where arrangement can be made for a visit for myself and the mayoress. And even if a home visit can't be made due to COVID restrictions, then arrangements can still take place to send a card and a gift. Thank you very much. So the next announcements now, we're moving on to members of Cabinet. The first one is Deputy Leader, Councillor Howard Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members may be interested to know that together with our waste partners Kia, we are trialling an all-electric refuse collection vehicle this week. Known as an e-collect, the new lorry started its rounds on Monday and has been used to record vital information that will support future decisions on the increased use of ultra-low emission vehicles. The e-collect is being put through its paces to explore its ability and range. In particular, we are monitoring how it performs while collecting waste from our valleys communities and in transporting it to the Materials Recovery and Energy Centre at Jersey Marine. The vehicle, which is manufactured by the company Dennis Eagle, has already been assessed for its durability and performance on different road surfaces and under various conditions. This trial offers a great opportunity as part of our commitment under the 2030 Zero Carbon Agenda, and joins other recent efforts, such as our moves to install more charging infrastructure for electric vehicles and the use of electric taxis for fleet operators. I hope to be able to bring you more news on this innovation very soon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Leader. Next, Cabinet Member for Communities, Councillor Stuart Baldwin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just the one announcement from me today, and work is progressing on the next phase of the active travel route, which when complete will provide a safe, convenient access route between Coitchurch and Bridgend. The project, which is expected to take up to 12 weeks to complete, is focusing on Cowbridge Road West to Brackler Street and will include an upgrade of existing traffic signals at the junction of Cowbridge Road West and Coitchurch Road. Along the route, pavements will be widened and new drop crossing points will be installed alongside new street lighting, signage, safety bollards and road markings. Resurfacing work and improvements to the existing drainage system will also be carried out. Establishing safe, convenient, active travel routes that can be used by pedestrians, cyclists and users of wheelchairs and mobility scooters remains an important objective for both the Welsh Government and Council, and this latest link is going to form an essential part of that system. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Baldwin. Next, Cabinet Member, Social Services and Early Help, Councillor Jane Gebby.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I've only got one brief announcement for members today, if you'll bear with me, because I'm trying to do it on one screen. Members will be aware of the extreme pressures that we are continuing to operate under. It's already been exceptionally difficult even prior to the pandemic, and the impact that this is having throughout the region on recruitment to the social care sector as a whole. As part of our ongoing response to this, the next phase of our recruitment drive is about to be launched. with a focus set firmly on why choosing a career in social care is a strong and rewarding choice. The campaign will incorporate a mix of videos, news releases, features, social media posts and graphics to reach as many potential candidates as possible. I've been fortunate to have a sneak preview of some of these videos. It was inspiring to note that this is considered a career choice by them and not just a job. The campaign will enable existing staff to talk about how they started out as social care workers and how they were supported by the council to progress and develop their careers further. Wales Online will be interviewing some of our staff as part of this, and the campaign will offer a realistic insight into what it really means to work within our social care sector and the dedication required to make a difference to our most vulnerable residents. There will also be a recruitment event held within Bridgend Town Centre, as this proved to be especially useful in previous phases of the recruitment campaign. The campaign will build off the success and popularity of similar recruitment drives launched by Welsh Government and Adult Social Care, and will include a heavy emphasis on why staff find working in social care to be both professionally and personally rewarding and satisfying. The campaign is due to be launched later this week, and I do hope that all members will do their utmost they can to support it and to help publicise it across all of our communities. Many thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gebbie. The next one is Cabinet Member for Wellbeing and Future Generations, Councillor Denisha Patel.
Thank you, Mayor. Members may not be aware, but various activities are taking place between now and the end of March as part of the Winter of Wellbeing programme. Designed to build upon the Summer of Fun, this programme is supported by Welsh Government and seeks to provide young people with opportunities to remain active, safe, healthy and well. With a huge range of events taking place at local leisure centres, swimming pools, libraries and more, the initiative is being delivered through numerous local organisations such as Arwen, Halo, Barvo, Bad Bikes, KPC and Boys and Girls Clubs in Betws, Nantymoel and the Wyndham. In addition, the Earl is developing creative arts workshops, rock band taster sessions and a weekend residential stay. The pandemic has been a real challenge for many young people and their families. The Winter of Wellbeing seeks to provide them with support, guidance and opportunities for lots of fun. Details are available at local venues as well as the council website. And I hope that members will support this initiative by encouraging their constituents to find out more. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Patel. And Cabinet Member for Education and Regeneration, Councillor Charles Smith, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to draw attention towards some recent innovations at Pembrosk Primary School, which have been benefiting pupils. Some councillors might not be aware of the idea of a therapy dog. I was made aware of therapy dogs 3 or 4 years ago at our first Festival of Learning, and I was shown that therapy dogs have a special role in special schools where they help to ease anxiety and they make friends with young people with autism and additional learning needs. They've also got a role in mainstream schools, and Year 2 learners at Pembrosk were recently visited by Riley, a border collie therapy dog who joined their reading groups as part of an exercise designed to help their literacy skills develop and progress. Riley provided a calming influence and supported the children's confidence and enthusiasm as they were encouraged to read aloud. Needless to say, Riley was hugely popular and the visit was a big success. So plans are being explored to extend the scheme to other schools across the region. Pembrosk Primary has also installed a unique vending machine that is offering pupils not snacks or drinks, but books. Each week, one lucky winner from each class receives a token to reward their reading efforts, attitude and progress. The winning pupil can use the token to select a new book from the special vending machine. And I'm sure the staff will make sure that although the lucky winner is totally random, everybody will get a turn. I'm sure members will agree that both of these innovations offer an excellent incentive for children to read more and to improve local levels of literacy. The school deserves to be commended for these efforts. I'm always ready to commend Pembrosk Primary School. So well done to all involved.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Smith. Great stuff there. And the next item now, we have the Chief Executive. Announcements, Mark?
Just one brief one, thank you, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yep.
I'd like to advise members that we have received official notification that the Bridgend Youth Justice Service will be inspected by Her Majesty's Inspectorate of Probation next month. The inspection will be carried out between the 14th and the 18th of February. The inspection team will review the work of the Youth Justice Service before delivering a report on the effectiveness of the service and on our efforts to prevent young people from offending and re-offending. The HMIP inspections are designed to promote excellence within youth offending services across Wales and to ensure that we are meeting our statutory responsibilities as effectively as possible. We will share further information with members in due course. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Item 5 next, then, receive announcements for the leader. Over to you, leader.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, I would like to congratulate and warmly welcome Councillor Christopher Davis, one of the new members for the Caira and Anti-Ffyllon ward, to his first meeting of full council. Our best wishes to Councillor Gifford, who has been in the Princess of Wales Hospital having his gallbladder removed. I know he's been very complimentary about the doctors, nurses and all the NHS staff that have treated him. My group are presently carrying vacancies on Corporate Overview and Scrutiny Committee, on Scrutiny Committee 1, Scrutiny Committee 2, due to Councillor Gabby formerly sitting on each of these bodies, but no longer being able to as a newly appointed Cabinet member. Therefore, the Labour replacement members on each of these committees are as follows. Corporate, Councillor Burnett. Scrutiny Committee 1, Councillor Smith. Scrutiny Committee 2, Councillor Burnett. Members will have noted the success of the pandemic arrangements that have been in place since Boxing Day and been pleased to see that infection rates have continued to fall. Welsh Government has now confirmed that restrictions are to gradually ease further as Wales moves back towards alert level 0. The move follows latest public health evidence which shows that positive coronavirus cases have decreased, while more than 2/3 of people aged 12 and over have received either a booster or a third dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. This does, of course, have a number of implications for Bridgend County Borough. While the full move to alert level 0 will be dependent on the public health situation continuing to improve, the number of people who can gather at outdoor events has now risen from 50 to 500. From the 21st of January, there will be no limits on the number of people who can take part in outdoor activities. Crowds will be able to return to outdoor sporting events, and outdoor hospitality will be able to operate without needing to introduce additional reasonable measures. However, it should be noted that the COVID pass will still be required for entry to larger outdoor events. If the downward trend continues, all indoor activities will move to alert level 0 from the 28th of January. This will mean that nightclubs will be able to reopen, and that while working from home, wherever possible, will remain important, it will no longer constitute a legal requirement. Businesses, employers and other organisations will still need to undertake specific coronavirus risk assessments and put reasonable measures in place to minimise the spread of coronavirus, and the COVID pass will still be required for entry to nightclubs, events, cinemas, concert halls and theatres. Table service, the rule of 6 and 2 metre physical distancing will no longer be required, but self-isolation rules for people who test positive for COVID-19 and rules on facial coverings within most public indoor places will remain in force after the 28th of January. Members may have seen that Cwmtaf Morgannwg University Health Board is to offer walk-in vaccinations against winter flu for 2 and 3-year-old children. This follows concerns that children who have been off school or nursery may have missed their regular school vaccination programme and will be at risk during the final few months of winter when influenza is more prevalent. Administered by way of a nasal spray, the walk-in clinics will be available locally at the Ravenscourt Vaccination Centre between 9 o'clock and 4 p.m. this Saturday the 22nd and Sunday the 23rd of January. And these are walk-in vaccinations. You do not need any appointments. In other developments, an all-new lateral flow test is being piloted in Wales, which people can use at home, branded as Flow Flex and described on the packaging as being SARS-CoV-2 antigen rapid test. The new test dispense with the throat swab and require you to only undertake a nasal swab. And of course, the directions are contained within the test kit. So please follow them carefully, as there are different test kits currently available. Mobile testing also remains available for anyone experiencing symptoms of coronavirus. Drive-through testing is available at the former Revlon site in Maesteg and at Coity and Lichard Community Centre between 9 o'clock and 5 p.m. You can also still access the walk-through testing centre at the Bowles Hall car park in Bridgend between 8 o'clock and 8 p.m. Please note that booking remains essential across all 3 sites, and this can be arranged by visiting the Welsh Government website, calling 119, or if you have hearing or speech difficulties, or your constituents do, calling 1800 119, 1800 119. While the measures taken just before Christmas have limited the spread of coronavirus and have enabled us to start back towards alert level 0 conditions, we must do in a sensible, phased way and should not let our guard down. COVID remains a very real threat, and our best defence continues to lie in ensuring as many people as possible receive a full round of vaccinations. I'm sure that members will continue to promote this within their communities, and I would like to thank you all for your ongoing support in helping to promote these very important measures. In related news, retail, hospitality, leisure and tourism businesses in the County Borough can now register for Welsh Government funding to ease the impact of the Omicron variant during the period 13th of December until 14th of February this year. Total of 120 million has been made available by Welsh Government, and eligible businesses who pay non-domestic rates will be able to claim a payment of either £2,000, £4,000 or £6,000. To benefit, businesses will need to register their details in order to receive the payment, but can do so quickly and easily on the council website. It's on the front page. Since the start of the pandemic, Welsh Government has provided over 2.2 billion of support to businesses throughout Wales to help them manage their way through some very difficult circumstances. And this fund will go some way towards strengthening resilience, expanding business opportunities, and most importantly, safeguarding existing jobs. I'm sure the members will want to help ensure local businesses are aware of this support, and more information, including frequently asked questions, support guidance, and an eligibility checker is available at the Business Wales website. Finally, there was an overview and scrutiny committee meeting this morning. I understand there were questions about the attendance of the deputy leader and myself at the meeting. I can confirm that I sent my apologies because I was paying my respects at a funeral, and the deputy leader was late because his daughter had been involved in a serious car accident. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
thank you, Leader. And can I add my best wishes and speedy recovery to Councillor Gifford with his recent hospital admission, and wish him well. And we'll now move on to item 6, which are the electoral arrangements in Coity Higher Community Councils. Can those councillors who've declared prejudicial interest now leave the meeting, please? And Mark Galvin can confirm that they've left, and we can proceed then. Okay, have those left? Take it. Those that's declared prejudicial interest left the meeting, yeah?
Yes, Mr. Mayor,
Yep.
the 3 members have left.
Okay, right, you also. Item 6. Thank you, Mark. And over to Chief Executive, Mark Shepherd.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. Hopefully this is a relatively quick and straightforward report. Its purpose is to advise members of the conclusion of the consultation exercise in relation to the review of electoral arrangements in the Coity Higher Community Council, following a formal request from them during the recent boundary review, and then to seek approval of the final proposals, and then to authorise myself to submit those proposals to the Local Democracy and Boundary Commission for Wales. Just a little bit of context, if I may, Mr. Mayor, just to alert all members that we are scheduled and we are obliged to carry out a full community review after the elections in May and before 2027. That's the point at which we review fully all of the wards and all the representation in all of the town and community councils across the county borough. However, in advance of that, we received a formal request from this particular community council to carry out what I'll call a light review, if you like, which simply deals with addressing current imbalance, inequity and proportionality of the representation in the individual wards in that particular community council, predominantly caused by over recent years the rapid growth, obviously, of the Park Derwin estate within the boundaries. In this particular case, the background sets out that on the 24th of November, the council published its draft proposals to address those imbalances and wrote to all interested parties, asking them to respond to effectively a consultation by the deadline date of the 5th of January 2022. The report sets out in the appendices the relatively limited responses that were received. What we have now done is reviewed those procedures, sought guidance from the Boundary Commission for Wales, and drawn up the final proposal, which is included as Appendix 1. You will see in Appendix 1 that what has happened is, from the council's original proposal, there's been some changes. We are now proposing that in the Coity ward, it goes from the existing proposal of 2 town councillors to 6, in Litchard from 5 to 4, and from Pendray from 4 to 3. And you will note that that creates better parity in terms of the electors per councillor. If a councillor minded to approve that particular recommendation today, I will then submit that submission to the Boundary Commission, and you will note that they will determine it, and they will need to determine it by the 21st of March 22 in order for it to be implemented for local elections in May. I've nothing more to add on that, Mr. Mayor. I think the report speaks for itself, and hopefully that's reasonably clear to you. It takes you to the recommendation at number 9. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Members, you can see the recommendation. Do we have a mover and seconder for the proposal, the recommendation?
Move.
Second.
Mayor.
All in favour, I take it?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Yeah. No, any comments, questions from any members on this item? Nobody's indicating? No. Okay. Right, so that item's been approved. And before we move on to item 7, can we re-invite the members that left back to the meeting before we start on item 7 then, please? I assume on item 7, Caris, can we take in item 7? Are you ready? Yeah.
I am.
Mark,
Thank you.
Okay, Caris, if Mark could just confirm first that all members are back in the meeting before we proceed.
They are indeed, Mr. Mayor. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark. Okay, look, over to you, Caris.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon, and I'll just introduce myself. I'm Caris Lord. I'm the Chief Officer for Finance, Performance and Change.
So this agenda item concerns the capital programme for this year for the first 3 quarters of the year. And the purpose of the report is to provide you with an update on the position as at the end of December 2021, to seek approval for a revised capital programme for the period 21-22 through to 2030-31, and also to report on the performance against Prudential and other indicators for the year. So the current situation with regard to the capital programme, it was last reported to yourselves at Council on the 20th of October, at which point the forecast expenditure was 76.6 million. The revised programme in front of you in today's report is a forecast expenditure of 49.6 million, and this is detailed for you in Table 1 of the report. We're currently reporting slippage of just over 30 million into future years. Just to reassure members, we're now reporting that schemes are expected to slip. What this means is that some of the spending on those schemes will move from this year into future financial years. However, the scheme does remain part of the capital programme, and the scheme is still intended to be completed. So just by way of summary, the key schemes that are being slipped at this stage are detailed for you in the report, but they include some highway works in relation to Band B schools, some schools capital maintenance. The reason for that being is that we've had grant received from Welsh Government to do work on the schools, which will be taken this year, and our funding can move into next year. There's money slipping in relation to vehicle fleets due to delays in procurement of vehicles and the shortage of electronic components. Some delay on the Cosy Corners scheme, on the Porthcawl regeneration scheme, the Coastal Risk Management Programme, Maesteg Town Hall, and on the Capital Asset Management Fund, and details for those are actually in the report in front of you. The reason for slippage is varied depending on the scheme, but some of the reasons are that there's award of funding from Welsh Government is displacing current year funding, and that's what I've just outlined for you on some of the school funding this year. There are also some delays in timelines for some of the agreed schemes for reasons that are outside of the control of the council. We are experiencing problems now with supply chains and a shortage of contractors able to undertake the required work, which means that these schemes are slipping, and we do intend to bring some more information forward on that in a later report. There have also been some delays in funding awards, and we are seeing the impact of the pandemic still having an impact in some parts of the programme. We're also anticipating there's likely to be further slippage in the forthcoming quarter, although we can't accurately predict that for you at the current point, and it will be reported to Council early in the new financial year. So although some schemes have slipped, we do have some new schemes in the capital programme. There's money in relation to the ultra-low emissions vehicles, which was raised earlier with regards to trialling some of those. There's new money for the Metro Plus Local Transport Fund at Porthcawl and Pencoed, and there's new money in relation to the Bryn Cethin depot facilities. And we are anticipating confirmation of some further external funding for a number of other schemes, and again they will be included in the next capital programme when we report to Cabinet and Council for you to approve. So with regards to this year's monitoring position, there's details for you at Appendix A of each scheme, and at Appendix B the revised capital programme for the period up to 2030-31 is included. The other element of this report, if I may, Mr. Mayor, is just to talk through some of the prudential indicators that we have. As mentioned above, because there is some slippage now out of the capital programme into next year, our requirement to borrow for the current year has reduced as a result. However, the intention is that we will not be borrowing new money this year, as we will use some of our short-term reserves in order to do that. But that is a short-term position, and we will continue to monitor our requirement to borrow money as we go forward. Also draw your attention to the fact that when we do borrow money, we obviously have to repay it, and therefore there is 5.6 million in our revenue budget for this current year to go towards debt repayment. And just to confirm that we've set indicators in relation to this area of our work, and that we have operated within all of our boundaries this year and operated in accordance with the Treasury Management indicators that we presented and were approved as part of this year's revenue budget. Therefore, if I may, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like you to take you to the recommendations, which is that we're asking Council to note the capital programme position as at the end of December, to approve the revised capital programme, and also to note the projected prudential and other indicators for 21-22.
Okay, thank you, Caris. Take members first to the recommendations. Mover and seconder, the three recommendations there.
Move the report.
Moved and seconded.
Second, Chair.
Okay, thank you. All in agreement with that at the moment? Yeah. We have some speakers. First, Councillor Howard Williams, please. Deputy Leader.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'd just like to welcome the investment that we're going to have to provide some new electric vehicles, and a very exciting project at Brinkeston Depot to harvest our own electric to fuel those vehicles. That's a very welcome project there, combined sort of project, and I'm sure it'll provide some very interesting data for us going forward.
Thank you, Councillor Williams.
I have to support the report.
Thank you, Councillor Keith Edwards.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Caris, for the report. A question more than anything, if I can. The PFI school, my state PFI school, obviously, when we engaged in a PFI agreement, it was the only way in which that school could have been built. Much needed school at the time, but it is, as all PFI schemes are, proving to be extremely costly. I just wonder, given the current interest rates, which are very low, is there any way that we could finance a way around getting out of that scheme, which would benefit the council? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Caris?
I don't know the details of that scheme, but I would assume that we've entered into a long-term arrangement around that PFI, which now would be very difficult for us to change. And I understand where others have tried to change this, they have encountered quite significant penalty costs as a result of trying to change those arrangements. Obviously, we're always looking to make sure that we're spending our money as appropriately as possible, but I would suggest that it would probably be a hefty penalty for us to change those contractual arrangements at the current time.
Thank you, guys. I noticed then that Leader and Deputy indicated. Councillor Keith Edwards, yeah, okay.
Just make an inquiry as to what it would cost, please.
I wouldn't have that to hand, Councillor, but I can certainly take that away.
Thank you.
Okay, Leader and Deputy, is there a point on this point?
I'll give way to the Leader, and I'll add if I need to.
Okay,
thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is in response to Councillor Edwards' questions. Of course, as Caris is brand new, she's not going to be aware of the history. We fully explored this. Certainly within I think it was the last 18 months, the Deputy Section 151 Finance Officer explored whether or not there would be any savings that we could make, and that was not the case because of the nature of the original agreement that was put in place. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Leader.
Yeah, I confirm that there was a review, and the fact that the agreement we got is for a full sort of cost and repair agreement with the PFL, which I'm sure Councillor Edwards is fully aware of. The option then to release us from that and to take on full responsibility, it just did not actually. What we've got is a very cost-effective method of buying the school. That's what the report told us.
Okay, thank you both, Councillor Edwards. Okay. Next one is Councillor Alex Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you very much, Caris, for the report. Just with regards to some of the new programmes, of course, I'd like to welcome the commitment of £17 million of funding for the Centroid level crossing and Pembrosk Roadbridge. As you'll be aware, is currently out for public consultation, and there remain to be assurances to be provided before the scheme goes ahead as planned. But with regards to the Metro Plus local transport funding of £150,000, which is outlined in the report, will you remind me what this is particularly going to be utilised for? Because clearly it's a massive project of £17 million, but you've allocated £150,000 to it to begin with, and £47,000 has been spent to date. So I just wondered whether you could confirm whether this has been spent on these ongoing surveying work and consultation, or whether it's for another reason. Thank you.
Okay, Janine, over to you. I see you there ready to go. Over to you, Janine.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Yes, if I could answer, please, Councillor. But for the purposes of the recording, I'm Janine Nightingale. I'm the Corporate Director for Communities. What you will see in the report, Councillor, is an allocation towards the replacement of the Pembrosk Bridge and removal of the level crossing, a strategic transport initiative for us. We are applying to the UK government's Levelling Up Fund for the monies to be able to undertake this scheme. So the 17 million is what we are anticipating. Should we be successful, we would be able to lever in from that fund. Now, in order for us to design out that bridge to a REBA 4 level, which is full design of the bridge, we're currently working with Network Rail, Transport for Wales and landowners and others to get that design into a position where we can cost it, see when it can be delivered and what the timescales are. So some of the monies that you see in against that are the costs of that detailed design, and to get that application into bid ready condition. We need to submit the bids for the Levelling Up funds by June of this year. Now, of course, the bridge won't be delivered for at least 3 years after that point, because we'll have to tender it, and then because it's one of the main lines in and out of Swansea through to London, we're going to have to look at working with Network Rail upon times when we can install the new bridge and do all the associated work, and then eventually when the new bridge is in place, we would look to remove the level crossing and replace it with a pedestrian bridge. So a wonderful scheme for Bridgend and the region, a very large strategic transport scheme that has been initially funded by the City Deal, CCR. They provided us the funding to design the scheme under their Metro Plus, but we will be applying to UK government for the 17 million in order to complete the scheme. So I hope that provides a little bit more narrative behind some of those figures. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Janine. Massive scheme and will be welcome, I'm sure. Councillor Baldwin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And this is just a caveat to Janine's 17 million. That is an indicative cost. Obviously, we don't know what the final costs are going to be in relation to such a major infrastructure project. We're waiting to see the outcome of the consultation, because some of the issues that have been raised have been around widening of some roads and how we can best introduce an active travel route over where the current level crossing is. So 17 million is probably the lower level. I think Janine would agree, but we're obviously waiting to see how what that finally comes in at. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Baldwin. There's no further indication of any questions or comments, and it's been moved and seconded. So,
Mr. Mayor, I have indicated.
Ross on my screen. Sorry, Councillor Thomas. I don't know why that's not coming up. Okay, Councillor Ross Thomas.
Okay, thanks, Chair. Two very quick questions from me. First of all, welcome, Caris, to your first meeting of full council. And thanks for the report. You've mentioned that there's a slippage of just circa 30 million going forward into the next financial year. I absolutely understand the conditions that have led to that slippage of the last 2 years. It's the pandemic and probably the unavailability of materials, etc. So I just wondered how that compared to other financial years. I understand you're new, so I just wonder if other officers could give an indication as to how that compared moving into the next financial year with previous years. And secondly, Mr Mayor, members will be aware of the welcome news from Welsh Government around the £2.65 million being made available to support people in the Cairo ward with repairs to their homes. I wondered, should there be a contribution asked of this council, whether that would come back to council in another update to the capital programme in future? Thanks very much.
Right, okay. An item for finance. I say that the capital programme is constantly reviewed and reports do come back through the year if there are additions or subtract. Caris?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I was just going to say, you are right, money slips every year for very legitimate reasons. And as I've already said, there are reasons behind all of this slippage for next year. As you also pointed out, I am new to the council, so I don't know how this compares with previous years, but I can certainly get that information for you if you would like. But we are confident that there are legitimate reasons behind all of this slippage. And obviously, if there is any more, we will be reporting it in future reports to you. And with regards to the second issue, well, that we are required to bring any changes to the capital programme through Cabinet and then through to full council. So if there are any changes required, either later this year or next, then obviously they will be reported through that route as per usual.
Okay, thank you, Caris, for that. Right, we now have no further indications when we speak. So it's moved and seconded. I take it all in favour of the report. Yep, right. Okay, that's item 7 completed. Item 8, I've declared a prejudicial interest, so I will leave the meeting and hand over to the Deputy Mayor at this point. And there are a number of other members who also indicated prejudicial interest. So if we all leave, and we'll be notified to re-enter the meeting on completion of item 8. So over to you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon, everybody. Unfortunately, I don't have video capacity. I only have audio capacity. I have a very weak Wi-Fi signal. So in the absence of Mr. Mayor, and just to confirm that those who have declared an interest have left the meeting, perhaps one of the officers could confirm that for me.
Yes, they have, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. So if we move on then to item number 8, which is the council tax reduction scheme, who's going to take the lead on this particular report, please?
I'll be taking this report as well, Deputy Mayor.
Okay, Caris, could you please take us through the report then?
Yes, by all means. So this report is in front of you this afternoon because we're requesting council approval on the council tax reduction scheme for the coming financial year. And in accordance with the requirements, we have to do this, confirm that our adoption of the scheme by the end of this calendar month. So just by way of background, council tax relief provides assistance for those on low incomes who are liable to pay council tax. Welsh Government has developed a single nationally defined scheme for the provision of council tax support, and it provides for a small number of discretionary elements which individuals may choose to adopt. If they adopt any of these elements, then any additional associated costs would have to be funded locally. So the current scheme that's been adopted by Bridgend County Borough Council will end at the 31st of March 2022. And as I said, we now have to agree one for the coming financial year. So the council tax reduction scheme regs have been laid now before the Senedd for approval, and the new regulations do not contain any significant changes to the current scheme. Within the prescribed regulations, there is limited discretion given to the council to apply elements that are more generous than the national scheme. And these include the ability to increase the standard extended reduction period of 4 weeks given to persons after they've returned to work where they previously received council tax reduction, discretion with regards to the amounts of war pensions which are disregarded when calculating the income of any claimant, and also issues around the ability to backdate the application for council tax relief with regard to late claims. So as I said, the council is required to adopt this scheme by the end of January 2022. If it fails to agree a scheme, then the default scheme from Welsh Government will apply. So the proposed discretionary elements for 2022-23 are outlined in more detail in Table 1 at paragraph 423 of this report. And it proposes that we do apply a discretion in relation to the income received by individuals in respect of war disablement pensions, war widow pensions and war widowers pensions. And the proposal is that we disregard the total value of that income when calculating any relief that we should award. If that's agreed today, then the estimated cost to the council of applying that discretion will be £9,323 in the coming financial year. So if I may, Deputy Mayor, what we're asking council to do is to note the council tax reduction schemes and prescribed requirements regulations for 2013 and the 2014 to 22 amendment regs, and also to adopt the council tax reduction scheme 22-23 as set out in paragraphs 418 to 423 of this report. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Caris. Before we take any questions, could I have somebody please to remove the report?
Move the report.
Second, Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you, members.
Deputy Mayor, you got Councillor Williams like to come in. You got his hand up.
Yes. Please bear with me, Gary. Andrew, could you please help me with what members have asked to speak on this particular item, please?
Yes, certainly. Yes, it's at the moment it's just the deputy leader.
Yes. Any members have any members requested to ask Caris a question, please?
Yes, I have.
Councillor Voisey.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Whilst I'm happy to support the proposals, I did want to ask a question that there's over 8,000 households of working age claiming this council tax allowance. Is there any further breakdown as to the nature of those 8,000 plus households, as to whether they are actually in work and claiming help or are not economically active, so that perhaps there could be targeted help getting them to become economically active? I note that there's plenty of jobs going at the moment, and maybe that could be a where some people could help get back into work and help themselves, at the same time help reduce the burden on the taxpayer.
Caris, are you able to help Councillor Voisey with this question?
I don't have that detail to hand, but I do have a colleague in the meeting with me who may be able to assist. I don't know whether Janice would be able to answer that query or whether it's something we need to take away to provide information for you.
Janice, would you be able to help us?
Yes, we will be able to break that information down into people that are working. It's potentially a little bit tricky with universal credit applicants, recipients, because we may not have that information. We may just have the fact that they are on universal credit, and people on income support as well. They potentially could be working, but all we have is income support rather than a breakdown of what's that made up. But we definitely can get some information for that, yes.
Thank you, Caris. Thank you, Janice. Councillor Voisey, are you happy with that?
I'm happy with that. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I can see on my screen here, Councillor Howell Williams, the Deputy Leader. Your hand is raised.
That's correct, Deputy Mayor. I just wanted to speak in favour of the report, and regarding the. I mean, Councillor Voisey makes a very valid point that this money is targeted intervention to help people who are on low incomes and who have, no, I'm sure is very much needed. And this will only come into effect after the 1st of April this year. So it's an annual allocation then from Welsh Government to help low-income families, low-income households, give them some assistance in paying their council tax bills. And once we get to the 1st of April period and the council tax demands have been sent out from the council, we'll then have a detailed communication plan encouraging people who are eligible to claim it to come forward and claim this much needed assistance, because no, it's been well documented recently now in the news. No, we really are facing a cost of living crisis. Fuel bills, energy bills are just rising exponentially. We've got the highest rate of inflation that we've seen in many, many years. And I'm sure this money will be very much needed by low-income households across the county borough.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Leader. There's one other hand raised, but I'm afraid I can't identify who the member is. Or is it an officer?
It's the leader, Deputy Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just in response to Councillor Voice's question, it's important for colleagues to understand that this is a benefit, and I'm sure Caris and Janice can confirm, this is a benefit that is not just available to people of working age, but also to retired people, and a large number of the people who are supported by this scheme are pensioners, for example. And one of the discretionary elements that we support is an additional support for war widows and those in receipt of war widows pensions and war widowers pensions as well. Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Are there any other further questions on agenda item number 8? I can see Caris have raised your hand. Caris?
If I may, I was just going to follow on from something that the Deputy Leader said, which was to reassure members really that we have existing and planned communications in place to make sure that people who are eligible for this kind of support know about it. So when the council tax demand notices do go out later on in this in the year, they do include a note about this council tax relief, and its availability is publicised on our website. Welsh Government is also doing a lot currently to promote the availability of this, and we are promoting this alongside the winter fuel support scheme as well via at the moment via our website, and it's including in any emails that we send to applicants. And we're doing some targeted work now in February and early March to make sure that as many people who are eligible for this particular benefit do contact us, and that they get what they're entitled to. So I just wanted to reassure members that we are doing a lot at the moment to raise this particular scheme.
Thank you, Caris. I'm sure your comments will be not only well received by members in the meeting, but by the community at large across the county borough. Are there any other further questions, please? Okay, that brings item number 8 to a conclusion. Andrew, can we please invite the Mayor back into the meeting, please, for item number 9?
Yeah, certainly. I'll re-invite all the members who've left back in now, Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, are we back? Is anybody there?
Yeah, we're here. Back, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You're back in the chair.
Right, thank you, Deputy Mayor, for taking that item 8 and So everybody went out is back now in the meeting before we proceed to item 9, I take it, yeah? Can you confirm, Mark, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, they've all been invited back in by Andrew electronically and by myself by way of email, so there's no reason for them not to be here.
Okie dokie.
Thank you.
Right, thank you for that. So that's item 8 completed, and the next item 9 now is report the monitoring officer review of political balance changes to committee membership. So over to you, Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the purposes of the recording, I'm Kelly Watson, Chief Officer, Legal, Regulatory, HR and Corporate Policy. Members, the purpose of this report before you today is to advise you of the outcome of the adjusted political balance of the authority resulting from Councillor Chris Davies being elected at the recent by-election in Caira. It's also to seek approval of the revised political balance and to approve the allocation of seats to political groups in accordance with the political balance rules. Members will be aware there's been a recent change to the membership of political groups whereby Councillor Chris Davies was elected in the recent by-election and has joined the Hmip Independent Group. This has slightly affected the political balance of the council, and in view of those arrangements, the following changes to committee memberships is required in accordance with the provision of the Local Government Act 1972. The changes are set out in paragraph 4.1 of your report. So for the Town and Community Council Forum, the Labour group will lose a seat and the Hmip Independents will gain a seat. And on the Subject Overview and Scrutiny Committee 2, the Hmip Independents will gain a seat. The membership of the committees has been updated to reflect the composition, and the updated political balance figures are shown at your appendix to your report. The group leaders of Labour and the Hmip Independents have been contacted, and they will be asked today to make the required changes as set out. I therefore take you to the recommendations, and Mr. Mayor, also if we could ask those group leaders to put forward their members for those changes. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Kelly. I think take these changes first then. Councillor Ross Thomas.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I just very quickly associate myself with the sentiments of the leader at the top of the hour, namely condolences to Councillor Collins and best wishes to Councillor Gifford for a speedy recovery. Specifically on this report, Mr. Mayor, can I just extend the warmest of welcomes to Councillor Christopher Davies, a new member for the Caira Ward, Croeso Cynnes, Councillor Davies. Very much looking forward to working with you and seeing the contribution that you make, not just to the Hmip Valley, but to the council as well. And as per the report, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to confirm that Councillor Chris Davies will take the 2 vacant seats, one on the Town and Community Council Forum and number 2 as a member of Scrutiny 2. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Ross Thomas. Any further announcements, changes? No. Right, can I take you to the recommendations then? We've got 3 recommendations there. Mover and seconder, please.
Move.
Second.
Second. Okay, we're all happy in favour of that, yeah? Any
Right.
changes? Right, thank you, members. Item 9. Item 10 next, reappointment to the Standards Committee. And that's back to yourself, Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to seek the approval of Council to the extension of the term of office of 2 of our independent members of the Standards Committee. In accordance with the Standards Committee Regulations 2001, the Standards Committee shall consist of not less than 5, no more than 9 members. The composition of our committee is set out at paragraph 3.1 of your report. Mr. Mayor, the term of office of 2 of our independent members run out in February and May 2022. These members are eligible to be reappointed for a further term, and thereafter they must stand down as they cannot serve more than 2 terms of office. These particular members have made a beneficial contribution to the governance of the council, and we've spoken to both, and both are in agreement to stand for a further term. I therefore take you to the recommendations at paragraph 9 and ask the Council reappoint Mr Jeff Baker and Mr Philip Clark to the Standards Committee for a further 4-year term. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Kelly. Right, members, you see the recommendation? Mover and seconder?
Re-elect Chair.
Move. Is it been moved? I'm moving that.
I'll second Councillor Thomas's move.
Right. All in favour?
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Right. Thank you. Moved and seconded. Item 10. Is that one complete? So, yep. Item 10. I've lost track myself there. Item 11 next. Then we have the information reports for Norton. Anything to be said in that, Kelly? Over to you, Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you know, this is an administrative report to inform Council of an information report that's been published since your last scheduled meeting. That report is set out at paragraph 4.1. There's only been one report this month, and I therefore just ask Council to acknowledge the publication of that document. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Members, for the recommendation, move in a second, please.
Move. Report.
Okay, all in favour? Yeah. Right, that's item 11. Complete. Item 12, the questions from Councillor Alta for saying he's not present. Is that item will need to be deferred until Alta for saying can attend to put the question forward? So we move on to item 13. Sorry, the second question we have on item 12 is Councillor. Question from Councillor Tim Thomas, the Cabinet Member, Future Generations Wellbeing. I'll ask Councillor Tim Thomas come in a minute. And can I just remind members there's an opportunity for supplementary from Councillor Thomas, supplementary question. There'll be an opportunity, and I'll indicate when, for 2 further supplementary questions. But please note they are meant to be questions, not statements or comments. They need to be supplementary questions later, and I'll indicate when. Ask for people if they'd like to ask that. So over to you, Councillor Tim Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, my condolences to Councillor Collins and a speedy recovery to Councillor Gifford. I'd like to thank the Cabinet Member for my response to my question. I'm getting a significant number of referrals in the local community over rat problems. And from my written question, I note from the data that since 2016-17, the number of pest control requests specifically for rats has increased by 53%. Just be really interested if the Cabinet Member has any insight for this quite significant increase. Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Thomas. I take it that's a supplementary question because I've got to say you've received the answer and all members have received a copy.
Yeah. So the question was, what is the data? Now the question is, why, basically.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Patel.
Yeah. So the data is really interesting. Obviously, it shows that we have had year-on-year increases in calls. I think what's interesting now, I know Councillor David Lewis has been speaking with me about the new contractor, and we've actually seen early indications that the calls are significantly reduced. So, for example, we had on average 23 calls a day with the previous contractor, and now the new contractor is averaging about 14 calls per day. And so I think that goes to show that it's probably to do with the operating model that we were functioning with previously. I think the new contractor operates in a different way. So, for example, under the previous contractor, residents were required to sit at home for 3 days, and during the pandemic, 4 days, and told that somebody would come between 9 till 5 on any of these given 3 or 4 days. Now that I don't think was relatively helpful. However, it was a free service and residents are able to call other providers and pay for a service if they choose to, but a lot of people were asking for this free service that we have supported as a cabinet and a council. So I think that's probably one thing that has gone down well. The new operator is saying that, or he's providing, or they're providing rather, a call before they attend. So rather than just turning up, you know, Tuesday 3 o'clock when someone's doing the school run, they're calling residents to make sure they're at the property. So that's meant that they're able to get through a lot more of the workload. The response rates are down from 72 hours, which was what we asked for the previous contracted 48 hours. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that I think links to the fact that we've now got a more proactive and engaged contractor under operating under a different model. So yeah, so I think I'll leave it there because I could probably talk about this indefinitely. So yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Patel. Interesting response there. Shows how different contractors perform, and there's plenty of data there behind the scenes. So we'll now move to supplementary questions. There's 2 supplementary questions, and I see Councillor Gary Thomas and Councillor Ross Pennant Thomas. Councillor Gary Thomas first.
You're on mute, Councillor Thomas.
My apologies.
Well,
is it true that the services of the pest control officer is free? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
It is true, Councillor Thomas, and actually pre-pandemic it was one of the options that we were looking at introducing a fee for. Obviously I did not want to do that, but with the budget cuts and austerity, it was something that we were considering. We tried our best to protect it, and I think the fact that residents during the pandemic were at home more often and we were seeing increasing calls, we managed to make the case to retain it as a free service. But yeah, it is free in Bridgend, and it's not free in other counties. So I know that they charge over £100, I think, in the Vale of Glamorgan, and similarly, I think in RCT and in Hmip Patel, but not quite as much as the Vale, but they still do charge. So, you know, we are quite fortunate here in Bridgend that we do offer a pest control service that's free at the point of need. And also, I think that it's a public health issue, and so it should be free.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Patel. And the second supplementary, Councillor Ross Pennant Thomas.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Loved the attempt at the planted question there, but probably better to make it a little bit less obvious next time. But I wondered if the authority had...
Thomas, there's no need for comments like that. Sorry.
It's quite obvious to me, Mr. Mayor, and probably any other member.
Well, that's your opinion, and you know, please keep your opinion.
Well, I've shared my opinion with you now, so that's fine. I wonder if the cabinet member has any.
Can I come in, Mr. Mayor, please?
No, I wonder if the cabinet member has any insight into where the pest control issues are at their worst, whether it's, for example, private rented sector or the social housing sector, in particular, to help us identify where those problems might be, really, and what support could be put in place. Thanks.
Okay, so I can't quite put my finger on that because not everybody reports rodents. And not everyone reports pests. I think from our report, so obviously just those cases and those people that have come forward and reported, because not everyone wants to do it. People, you know, there's still a stigma. People don't want to see that, you know, that van outside their property and their neighbours talking about them. So I think, you know, that is a bit of an issue. But I do think that from looking at our casework, it is social housing that the volume of our calls are coming from. And again, you know, people are in social housing because they are, you know, in need, and they don't tend to have the levels of disposable income that others do. And I think that they are residents, and they're the ones that have been calling on our service more than others. I think that's probably what you were getting at. I don't know if you want a geographical base or anything like that. I can provide you with more details about geography if you're interested in that. Maybe you can write to me like Councillor Lewis did, and I can get you that information.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Patel. I think that can be dealt with outside the meeting if further response or further details are required, and thank you for that. And again, I did say at the beginning, I was hoping we would refrain from personal comments. These are supplementary questions, not comments or statements by members. Can we please keep that in mind for future questions as council? So thank you. That's the questions, council. Item 12 completed. Item 13 is urgent items, and not been notified of any urgent items for today's council meeting. So it's now 16:21 by my computer, and that brings us to the end of today's agenda. So I can bring the meeting to a close. Thank you all for taking part today, and participation, and wish you well for the rest of the afternoon, late afternoon, evening, and take care all.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.